Well, two political adversaries are up early this morning for the final day of campaigning in the Northern Territory election. Voting has already begun in remote areas ahead of tomorrow's poll.
The minority Labor government is facing a tough battle to win a fourth term. Terry Mills is the Territory's opposition leader and he joins us now from Darwin. Mr Mills, good morning.
Good morning, Michael.
24 hours out from the poll, how do you feel?
I like to think it's time for a change. That's the message we're getting wherever we go. And probably most interestingly, it's from the bush as well. There have been these massive shire reforms undertaken by Labor, which has really taken decision-making away from local people in the bush. There's also this need to deal with our great opportunity with the economy, but the debt levels in the Northern Territory are very, very high. And so we're having to focus on making sure we run a very efficient government that delivers quality services and also to expand our economy and take better control over the opportunity the Territory faces. So I think there is a mood for change. You know, we've had 11 years of Labor. Now they're being asked whether they want to go for another 15 years or they want to choose a better future.
Let's go back to you talking about running an efficient government. There's been a lot of controversy in the Territory this week about what a government under you would do to the public service. What are you saying to voters about public service jobs, Terry Mills? Let's just clarify that here this morning.
Yeah, we need our public service. We have great opportunity. We believe the Territory is growing, but what we need is the public service to be focused on service delivery. Under Labor, we've had the public service largely at the top levels focused more on the government, and there's been significant waste, but it's largely around the waste of time with processes that are designed to slow decision making down, and we'd like to turn it around so that it's focused outwards to deliver services to Territorians. Now there's been some controversies all beaten up by stories that have come from New South Wales and from Queensland. Very different jurisdictions. The Northern Territory is in a very strong growth phase and we do need a strong and focused public service. And when we're talking about efficiency, is to make sure the dollars that flow through that system flow all the way through to the benefit of Territorians and not the benefit of the government.
Okay, how many public servants aren't focused on delivering services? How many jobs would therefore be in doubt under a government led by you?
Well, those who are serving the public, those public servants have got nothing to be concerned about. In fact, in some areas we will need to expand it. But it's those political operatives that are working in the interests of the Labor government who are not in fact public servants but basically Labor Party operatives.
Okay, so we're not, just clarify, we're not talking about public servants. You're guaranteeing there'll be no public servant job losses.
I have said that from the beginning, and they have tried as much as they can to create another story.
So we're talking just about
your hardest, it's not the truth.
Ministerial officers.
Sorry?
We're not talking about public service departments. We're talking, but by definition, if Labor loses, you're not going to re-employ their ministerial staffers.
Basically, that's a story I've said from the beginning. There's been a barrage of noise coming from Labor trying to scare people and say whatever they can to try and get people to trust them once again, but I think that trust has been eroded. I have said from the beginning we need a strong public service, a focused public service. I've said from the beginning that no frontline public service servant has anything to be concerned about. I said it from the beginning, I'll say it today, I said it last night, and yet they'll still run their ads, which are quite wrong.
Well, I'm still a bit confused. Okay, let's talk about backroom public servants. They're not necessarily all ministerial or political operatives here. Can you guarantee there'll be no public service job cuts, both frontline or backline?
Yes.
Good. Okay, we've got that. Now let's move on to your alcohol policy, which has also been the subject of quite a few stories this week, including on Lateline earlier in the week. A lot of doctors have criticised your plan to send chronic alcoholics to prison farms. Why do you believe that is a good policy?
We have to shift our focus to the behaviour that gives rise to this problem that we have in the Northern Territory. And under Labor, we've had this focus on the substance called alcohol. Now we've got to get our priorities right. The problem isn't firstly alcohol, but it is the behaviour that is causing concern and fuelled by the excessive consumption of alcohol. So by dealing with behaviour, then we can put in measures that help that person to be able to make better decisions in the future, and that's by putting a stronger focus on rehabilitation and a therapeutic approach. Rather than constantly chasing and trying to control the supply of alcohol, I think we've got to start that discussion by recognising the important question of why. Why do people have such a demand for alcohol? That's why some of our economic reforms and putting decision making back into the hands of local people, particularly in the bush, will give them a greater control over their lives and make sure that if they do get into trouble, that there is an intervention of sorts that delivers the help that's required so that they can make better decisions. Now, we talk about a prison farm, we're talking about rehabilitation, strengthening education, providing with practical skills so that next time round they are in a better position to make a better decision.
And finally, Terry Mills, you of course had Tony Abbott there with you at the very start of the campaign. As we know, Julia Gillard hasn't campaigned with the Chief Minister Paul Henderson. Do you believe federal factors will play any role when Territorians vote tomorrow?
Yeah, it's Labor here, even though the Labor Party here have tried to pretend that they're not the Labor Party, they haven't fooled Territorians. And it's quite noticeable that Julia's not welcome here, but her cheques are. They have accepted cheques that are going to be delivered in the sweet by and by from Julia Gillard. Happy to receive those cheques, not happy to have Julia here. And even though they have pretended, Territory Labor, that they're not Labor, they haven't fooled anybody. And I do think that the Labor brand, people are generally over it, because we do need a strong focus and a good, honest government that focuses on the needs of Territorians and forget about deals to just survive, but deals only with the people of the Territory to get the show on the road.
Terry Mills in Darwin, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thanks, Michael.